Okay, racing today from Albany. They have got the Tab Touch, the Road to Jericho Cup, the WA qualifier over the 3,100 metres. Bred Dwarfs, our favourite, is going to be Burnbrae at 360. Deadly and Fast is 5. Pure Chino at 6. Where's My Lunch at $5. And Royal Law at $8.50. So 8 big ones down at Albany. The first event to go at 12:30. We're pacing at Calaberan. And the first event gets underway at 12:57. They've got a... what have we got there? We've got a good race on the Jock Coleman Memorial Dainty's Daughters Mares Race. What a horse she was. Over the 2,130 metres. That is due to go at... what time is that? 11 minutes past 3. Race number 5 on the program. So we're pretty well set for a big day. We now need to catch up with James Sullivan to open the batting. A very good morning, James.
Hello, Marty, David, listeners. Hope everyone is enjoying this wonderful Anzac weekend.
Yes, absolutely we are, Sol. Nice to be catching up with your good self. Now, there's been some really good action from the NRL over the last few days. Let's go through yesterday to kick off. And, well, the Panthers, that hole that they're in, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And incredibly, they keep on opening up favourites. And that was the case again there yesterday. Manly far too strong, though, for the Panthers with a 26-10 victory.
Yeah, well, they broke that 3-game losing streak to Seagull, so that was the most important thing. And it coincided. He comes back, and let's be totally honest, Turbo comes back, they all grow a leg, honestly. You know, and to be fair, when it was 14-10, what was it? No, yeah, it was 14-10 at half time.
14-0.
Here we go. You know, 14-0, that's right. Sorry, yeah, 10-0, wasn't it?
14-0.
14-0.
Yep.
14-0, that's right. I've got me notes mixed up here, but ended up being 26-10, of course. So when they led 14-0, I still thought Panthers get back into it. But I'll tell you what, boys, the highlight over the weekend is how many people are we going to put on report? How many are we going to send to the bin? Because this weekend has been absolutely ridiculous for that. But more importantly, if you look at the ladder, Panthers are sitting bottom. Wow. Oh,
Bottom of the ladder.
New home ground, Marty. They can't win at Combank.
Well, that's amazing, isn't it?
It's stunning, isn't it? Because, I mean, every year for the last, few years, they've been losing the odd player and people have been saying, oh, this might be a year that they come back to the pack a little bit, and they've just continued to defy that trend. But, wow, it seems like they have finally run over that cliff.
Yeah, I think the erosion's there. I think that's the word we've been using with them. And just bit by bit, as you said, Shorty, at the end of the day, and now they are blooding these kids. Yeah, and this is a thing. And they're probably not ready for NRL, but they will be in a couple of years. So every club's had to do it, and now it's the Panthers. As you say, after 5 grand final appearances in the last 5 years, they've just got to get down and get dirty again. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, I laughed at. I said, I don't think they can make the 8. So, well, at the moment, if you're taking bets...
oh, yeah, they've got a power of work to do. Cowboys have just started to turn their season around, haven't they? That's a massive win over the Titans, 50-18.
I'll tell you what, and it was massive because 8-12 at half time, and I thought, here we go. And it was leading.
Yeah.
And it's such a massive day. We know it's a Garrison City. Townsville finally had an Anzac sort of game, and they were ready to rock. But there's this Titans side. At half time, I thought they were going to buck the trend because they were 1 from 13. In Townsville, but in the second half, didn't they click into gear? Jeremiah Nene, he's just working nicely, Toddy Payton. He's just starting to show the form that, he's an Origin back rower and he came off the bench earlier in the year. Now he's just clicked him into gear. He grabbed a double and, as you said, mate, they look outstanding now. That's, they enjoyed the bye. They had wins on the road against the Panthers and in Perth, and all of a sudden they do look red hot, don't they, the Cowboys?
Oh, do they what? Piling on 50 points, 9 tries. Something to be said for the offence that they do possess, but also perhaps the lack of defence that the Titans showed on the day.
Yeah, disappointing, the Titans. I thought they were, the disappointing start of the competition, to be totally honest. I thought they'd be up there and about. As you said, as Marty knows, I threw them out as my jumping into the top 8 as a bit of a spec, but, geez, they've got some work to do if they're looking at doing that.
Oh, that is for sure. That is for sure. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Keep it positive. Back to Anzac Day. There were three games on. Let's start off with the first one. Roosters 46, Dragons 18. That led into the Warriors beating the Knights 26-12. And then Storm beat the Rabbits but missed the line. They were 24-16. Tell us about those three.
Yeah, it continued the trend, didn't it? The Roosters have been very, very good. That was their fifth of their last six against the Dragons. It was all over at half-time, 20-6. Young Sandon Smith put his hand up, didn't he? He's a young halfback for the Roosters. He was outstanding, grabbed 2 first-half tries. The second game, a bit of a dogfight. They had to work hard, the Warriors, but they got away in the end. And I tell you what, at the moment, they're going pretty well, the Warriors. They've had that one loss, and that was against Melbourne. Well, not just it is their one loss against Melbourne. And they're cruising along okay. The next game, it was a real battle. And I'll tell you what, when it was 10-all at half-time, I really didn't think, but obviously we knew Cody Walker pulled out on the Thursday. I didn't think the Rabbits could get near him, but Jack Whiten grabbed a double. It continued this trend, though. That's now 20 in a row the Storm have beaten the Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs have played 20 times there, Shorty, and have not come up with 2 points. But in the end, I like what I heard from Jerome Hughes yesterday. He said, we didn't win pretty, but that's how we've got to win occasionally. So both sides, a lot of players out. Storm grabbed the points.
Indeed. And the Broncos were far too good for the Doggies there on Thursday. They really put the pedal to the metal early on in the game and then just sort of kept it at arm's length from that point onwards.
Oh, Dave's there, 34-0 at half-time. We're all, what is going on here? But it's interesting. You don't see this very often unless a player's sent from the field. The Bulldogs were 12 men for 50 minutes in that game. They had 3 separate players sent to the sin bin, and haven't they been hit with a whip suspension-wise? Tupanua's got 7. He got 2 charges. Burton's got a couple. So, yeah, next few weeks for the Bulldogs, people might start thinking they got showed up through the middle on Thursday night, and that's a concern because they have said their pack is a bit small. But for Broncos fans, we needed to see that as well, Marty. And they were up and about on Thursday night.
No one likes a small pack, Chris. You know that.
Oh, no one does. No one.
Let's have a look at the action today. So at midday, we've got the Canberra Raiders, your boys with the Horns, taking on the Dolphins. $1.52 the Raiders, $2.55 the Dolphins. That line's at 5.5. All the money for the Raiders to cover. That's into $1.86. Total points is at 48.5. And the later game, West Tigers $2.75. The Sharkies $1.45. That line's at 6.5. And total points on that game 46.5. Take us through your thoughts for this afternoon's action.
How good are these? This first game, I am salivating. I cannot wait, and there's nothing worse than Sully salivating, boys, because honestly...
Salivating Sal.
The first... Is it a bit early in the morning for that?
Depends on who you company with, Sul.
That's very, very true. Very, very true. First meeting in their history in Canberra, because they've met 3 times. Canberra took the game to Wagga last year. Amazing. Nothing set. The last 2 games has been golden point with these 2 sides. So expect, and I tell you what, they're both in red-hot form, aren't they? I really like what I've seen from the Dolphins. Dolphins aiming for a club record. They're aiming for 4 in a row, and we know the Raiders have been very good. They've been on the road a lot, but it's really galvanised them as a side. But I don't mind the start for the Dolphins, plus 5.5. I'm going to go Dolphins in that one, the plus 5.5. Pretty keen on that. The next one, the Sharks. At Leichhardt, all the drama of West Tigers. They call it the spiritual home. They've won a few there lately. They've won 4 from their last 6, the Tigers. But this Shark side go pretty well against the West Tigers. Towed them up last year in this sort of corresponding game. Now, Galvin comes back in for the West Tigers. I think Sharks have still got too much at stake. I like the Sharks at the line, minus 6.5. So if you have a little line play, boy, the Dolphins and the Sharks, $3.67. I might get a bit funky here, Marty, just for you.
Yep.
So you know how it is. Dolphins 1-12. Sharks 13 plus. We'll get $10.14. So I don't mind. I really think this first game, if you get the opportunity, sit down and watch it, it's going to be quality. A little bit of rain about here early this morning, but I think it'll clear away nicely. And then I like Herbie Farnsworth into Ronaldo Mulatolo. we'll get $4.79.
Our old mate Herbie, he won't let us down. All right, Sal, that is fantastic work from your good self. Did you tune into Quokka Day yesterday?
I was busy calling. I saw the last couple of races and looked sensational. I watched Thursday night at Kennington. I love that. And then, what about G Hall Jr.? Was that a special on Friday night?
Was it ever?
100%.
Drew 7. I'll just go and sit up. I'll wait for Swayze to come round and I'll
sit
I'll
1-1.
The cheap seats. Oh, just sit in the cheap seats until the top of the straight and goes bang.
We've got the great man on, Gary Hall Sr. He'll be on. Joe Borg will be on. Jay Rooney. Of course, we've got the big Hong Kong meeting from Sha Tin today, Brad Hardie. That'll be that second hour. So always good to catch up, talk NRL. We'll do it next week.
Stay safe, boys.
There he goes, James Sullivan. What a drive it was. You know, I did report this on, must have been Friday because we had the lunch on Thursday. And it just seems to happen every year, that Western Trilogy lunch. I catch up with Senior. We sat down. I said, well, what do you reckon? He said, I'm really confident we'll win this.
Wow.
He was dead set, certain 100% they'd be one out, one back in that run.
Read it perfectly.
And get the money. And then he went at pains lengths to tell me that this is a very, very good horse.
We have for a long time, to be fair. This has been a horse that we've heard a lot of hype about, a lot of really positive comments from the stable. And Friday night's the night. That was the night to deliver, and the horses come up trumps. It was a stunning performance and perfect drive, as you mentioned, from Junior. A really, really special performance, and one that I'm sure, listening this morning to that interview, hats off, Matt Young and Gary Hall Jr., that interview that's played this morning before the show went to air. Wow, what a great insight into Gary Hall Jr. And he really opened up his vulnerability about having doubts about, this is a big race. How am I going to go? I'm not sure if I can beat, different legends of the sport, and how he's driving against them has made him a better performer. It was just an excellent interview. Really well done to Matty and Hall Jr. Love listening to some of those. And just quickly too, wanted to pass on our condolences to the world of harness racing and the family of Greg Sugars, passing at just 40 years of age, a star of the sport, and it's really rocked the sport, I know that. So passing on our sympathy to the Sugars family on the passing of a legend of harness racing.
You're listening to the Sunday Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Well, it's a very good morning to Simon Hill. How are you this morning, Simon?
Very good, Marty. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Before we talk EPL, let's talk FA Cup. Crystal Palace, what is it, 9 years since they've been into a FA Cup final with that win over Aston Villa?
Yeah. Yes, 2016, they were lost in the Cup final, where they lost to Manchester United. Strangely enough, I'm currently in a car with Andy Harper, and we were actually at that game many years ago, just before England played Australia in a friendly international up in Sunderland. So we were at that match, but they were too good for Aston Villa at Wembley overnight. A bit of a surprise, perhaps, given that Villa have had a good season, but they've had a poor week, knocked out of the UEFA Champions League by Paris Saint-Germain. And then they lost in the Premier League, real crucial game against Manchester City for a top four finish to an injury time goal. And Palace blew them away yesterday. A couple of goals for Ismaila Sarr. And one for Eberici Eze. So the Palace are through to their third FA Cup final. They've never actually won the trophy, but a good performance. And they're also grateful to their goalkeeper, Dean Henderson, who made a couple of big saves when Villa were pushing for an equaliser. So
they'll play the winner of Notts Forest and Man City, which is on tonight. We'll talk about that game a little later on. Straight to Premier League, and let's go through these results. Chelsea 1, Everton 0, Brighton 3, West Ham 2, Newcastle 3, Ipswich 0, Southampton 1, Fulham 2, and Wolves 3, Leicester 0. So no shortage of goals overnight.
Yeah, a few goals around. Just the one at Stamford Bridge. Nicholas Jackson ended a 13-match scoreless streak to get the winner. Chelsea dominant pretty much throughout. Couldn't find that second goal. Everton are hard to score against. But that puts Chelsea back in the Champions League places. An important win, really. And again, they're grateful to their goalkeeper, similar to Crystal Palace, Robert Sanchez, making a couple of important stops. But Chelsea have got a tough run-in for the top 5 spots for those Champions League places. They've got Liverpool at Stamford Bridge next Sunday. And then they've got Newcastle and Manchester United to come before they face Nottingham Forest on the final day. So that could be a final day showdown for one of those Champions League spots. A first win in a while, first win in 6 matches for Brighton, 3-2 over West Ham. A goal, well, in fact, 2 goals in the last couple of minutes. They were 2-1 down in the 89th minute. Kaoru Mitoma got an equaliser. And then a wonderful winner from Carlos Baleba, the Cameroon international, who's having a really good spell at the moment. And that sort of typifies West Ham's finish to the season. Graham Potter, since taking over as manager, has won only 3 out of 14 games. They're just probably grateful that the 3 teams at the bottom have been so poor and have been relegated with 4 games to go. One of those is Ipswich, whose relegation was confirmed. No surprise that they struggle at St James's Park, losing 3-0 to Newcastle. Alexander Isak with a penalty on the stroke of half-time after Ben Johnson had been sent off. That's Isak's 22nd goal of the season, takes him past Erling Haaland. And then in the second half, Dan Burn and a debut Premier League goal for Will Osula off the bench. So the bottom 3, as I say, has now been set with 4 matches to play. Southampton, of course, relegated a few weeks ago. They lost late on again to Fulham. Rodrigo Gomez with a winner in the 85th minute. Ryan Sessegnon, I should say, in the 92nd minute. Southampton trying to avoid this Premier League record, which they currently share with Derby County, a record low points tally of 11. So they've got 4 matches to get the 1 point that they need to avoid a place in the history books. And the other game, Wolves are having a great season, a great end to season, 6 straight wins now. Vitor Pereira, their new manager, hugely popular in the town. He goes out to the local pubs afterwards, celebrating with a few pints with the supporters. And
Good on him.
He was able to do that again yesterday. Leicester, of course, already down their 17th loss in 19 matches.
Only got a couple of games to look at. Sunday night, Bournemouth $1.68, the draw $4, Man U $4.70, and then Liverpool $1.24, the draw $6.50, and Spurs at $10.50.
Well, don't those numbers just sort of typify Manchester United's poor season? I mean, the fact that Bournemouth are such strong favourites at home. I mean, obviously, United's focus in this last part of the season is the Europa League because they're still in that competition, which could, salvage something out of an awful campaign. And I guess the big question for Ruben Amorim is does he rest players ahead of that semi against Athletic Bilbao, which is going to be hellish difficult for them. Bournemouth have been on a poor run as well, really. So the fact that the bookies fancy them so strongly is a bit of a surprise. But to be honest, I think they're right. I think Bournemouth will probably win that game. The other match, Liverpool against Tottenham. Well, I mean, your head would say Liverpool because they only need a point to clinch the Premier League title. They should do it at Anfield. But how Spursy would it be
Exactly.
to go up there and win?
Yep, at $10.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but yeah, all things being equal, should be 2 home wins later today. I
gather that you covered the scoreless draw Melbourne City, Adelaide United. Is that right yesterday?
Yes.
Correct. And that now confirms that Auckland finish on top of the ladder.
That's correct. Yeah, Auckland premiers in their first ever season in the competition. They've had a fantastic campaign on and off the fields. They played Perth Glory later on today, but the job's been done for them by Melbourne City's failure to win. So it should be a full house at Mount Smart and quite the celebration. You'd think the first trophy ever won by a team from New Zealand in the Australian National League. So congratulations to them.
How good is that? That is a magnificent achievement, Simon.
Yeah, it is. And, it's many years ago, Western Sydney Wanderers came in the league and they did the same thing in 2013. The big question now for Auckland is can they go on and win the grand final, which the Wanderers weren't able to do in that debut season. So credit to Steve Corica and Terry McFlynn. They've put together a very good, very competitive side. I don't think they're the best team necessarily to watch in terms of aesthetics, but they're so hard to score against, so hard to beat. Lost only twice all season. And sorry, Glory fans, but I don't think that's going to change today.
So where did all the goals go over the weekend in the A-League? It was 0-0, the game you covered. Brisbane Roar 1 beat Wellington Phoenix 0, and Newcastle Jets at home 0, Western Sydney 1.
Yeah, it was a bit of a barren weekend. We've not had too many of those of late, although in fairness, Melbourne Victory did score a couple on Friday night to defeat Macarthur. But the games yesterday, a bit of a dead rubber between Brisbane and Wellington at Suncorp. Florent Berengay got his first ever goal at Suncorp Stadium, which is a result that should be enough to avoid a first ever wooden spoon for Brisbane. They've had a poor season. Wellington, likewise, in the week that Giancarlo Italiano signed a new contract to stay on next season. The other game, watch out for Western Sydney Wanderers in the finals. They're on a good run, 11 matches unbeaten. Zach Sapsford got the only goal after an error from Thomas Aquilina yesterday. Not their best performance during that run, the Wanderers, but still good enough. And it's a good sign when you can not play at your best and still go away from home and win. So they're having a bit of a revival. They finish off the season away to Macarthur, local derby next week. So they'll take a lot of fans there, and there might be a smoky for the finals.
So Auckland to get the job done today against Perth Glory. They're $1.27. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. No disrespect to Perth, but it's a tough place to go. Only Western United have won in New Zealand against Auckland this season, and I can't see Glory changing that today with the best will in the world.
And the other game to get underway, 3 o'clock, Western United, 2:32, draw 4:10, Sydney FC, 2:48.
Yeah, and this is a really important game for Sydney FC because of that points game by Adelaide last night. Adelaide have moved back into the top 6. But their season is now finished. They've played all their games. Sydney have got 2 left, away to Western United today and then away to Melbourne City next week. They're a point behind Adelaide in 7th and basically need 1 point from 2 games to book their place in the finals because they've got a much better goal difference than Adelaide. I think they might get it today. Western have had a great season, but just a little dip in form of late. So it's all there for the taking, really, for Tully's team. We'll see if they do it.
Okay, a little bit of value there for Sydney at $2.48. Simon, always great to catch up. Have a safe flight. We'll do it again next week.
Good on you, Marty. Thanks, mate.
About to catch up with Chris Nelson. We've got one here, or got a couple here off the Retrovision text line. Where is it? Quokka Day has to be the best day of the year at Ascot. Also managed to have a nice each way on the Joker. And there's a photo of a Joker's grin cap there. Morning to all, and that was from Elko. Morning to all the team. How good has Ascot been last couple of weeks? If Gracie took my breath away last week, Joker's completely stunned me yesterday. A-grade racing at its best. Congrats to Perth Racing for putting on a fantastic show. That is from the Mauler, who was out there front and square.
Love it.
In very good form with John, who's listening in as well. Good morning, lads. Always good to catch up. Well, Chris Nelson's our man. A very good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty.
Good morning, Chris. Nice to be with you. Busy day of racing around this great nation yesterday. Let's kick things off in your neck of the woods up there at Eagle Farm. We're going to kick things off there in the listed 2-year-old fillies race, and it was de Grand Rouge Andrew Mallion saluting Apney H back in second and Sweet Pretender in third.
Yeah, and look, everything went right for Dragon Rouge yesterday. Made it 3 from 3, had a lovely run in the race, just one by one, and just was able to angle around those leaders at the top of the straight there. Heavily backed into $3.20 favourite. Happy Hatch, the other one that was shooting for 3 straight, tried hard, did everything it could or she could to get to Dragon Rouge, couldn't do so, and there's a fair gap back to the rest of them.
Yeah.
We had Sweet Pretender running third, beaten 3.5 lengths. Now, just a couple of notes from the race. Carbonara ran on okay, I thought. High Barbie, well, reared the start, completely blew the start, completely blew any chance she had. So we still don't know what to do with her, really. And the other one that I liked there from the trials, Listen Sweetheart for John Sargent, never, ever, ever got into the race at any stage. It was a funny old track there at Eagle Farm yesterday. I wouldn't be sacking anything that didn't run well that you fancied, but look, all honours have to be with Dragon Rouge, onward and upward towards the carnival.
Right, the big dip on plate, race number 6, taken out by Spicy Martini.
Yeah, for Toby Edmonds and Steve McLean, $8,000 purchase, if you don't mind, for Spicy Martini, who's now won 3 races. 2 of them have been on heavy tracks, so obviously gets through the ground very well. Was able to wear down Zoo Baby, who looked the winner probably most of the straight. Toby Evans did say post-race with Spicy Martini, there's a lot of improvement to come. Her coat's very wiry, so stick with her going forward. They've got a big opinion of her. Bellegardo was good running on. Cosmic Fire. Now, this was a funny old ride. Drew gate 10 of 12. I thought they'd either go back or they'd go forward. Well, they went forward. I'm just content to sit out there 3 wide without any cover, and as you would expect, faded a little in the straight, beaten 1.6 lengths. So I think maybe if Andrew Melling had his time again, he might want to be more positive or go back or go more positively forward. So I thought that was an odd one. We'll follow Cosmic Fire. Hella Fast was okay late. Couples Retreat pulled up with cardiac arrhythmia.
On to race number 7, the listed 3-year-old fillies Princess Stakes over the mile, and really nice performance handed in here by the 3-year-old daughter of All Too Hard filly, putting together a really nice record for David Van Dyke. It proved too good for Panito, and the one that you liked at Mary Diana back in 3rd.
Yeah, filly is going really well. She beat these quite comfortably. The margin was 2 lengths. I mean, she tagged the lead. She led early, and then Heat Missile took over. So she tagged Heat Missile, took over into the straight, and look, they tried to run her down, but they couldn't. But I think the second 2 were both good runs. Panito ran on, weaved home from the back of the field, just keeps running on. Now, this is a lead up to the Oaks. I know we're a fair way off it, but Panito's one you'd say is definitely heading towards the Oaks. James Cummings trains. And Mary Diana, John Sargent trains. He's told us to call it Mary Diana, by the way. I always pick it as Meridiana, but it's Mary Diana apparently. Bumped early in the straight and then bumped again shortly after. She lost balance there without any doubt, but she stuck to her guns in the straight. She ran 3rd, was beaten 2.5. I thought both of those runs, Panito, Mary Diana, are good going forward, and no knock on the winner, Filia. So that could be a good form race. Okay,
race 8, the Brisbane Mile, taken out by Tony Gollan, Regan Bayliss aboard Tenzing.
Yeah, I think this was a tale of good run versus bad run. Tenzing stuck on the fence, got the gap through at the top of the straight. Most of them headed wide as they do at Eagle Farm, but the fence seemed to be okay yesterday, and through went Tenzing, took all the shortcuts, whereas Miss Jolene was out the back, sat 3 and 4 wide, must have been 5 wide around the home turn, had no cover. She kept coming. She was beaten less than half a length on the line. Her run was enormous. She's come back in really good order, Miss Jolene. In Coda, railed home along the fence behind Tenzing. That run wasn't too bad. Just Folk, disappointed. Probably wanted a wetter track than yesterday. It did dry out a fair bit. Nothing else from the beaten brigade. Port Lockroy probably wants something a little bit firmer track-wise. But Miss Jolene, stick with her.
All right, so Miss Jolene, we continue to follow there. Let's switch our focus across to Randwick, where they went round on a soft 6 surface there yesterday. Kick things off from a review perspective in race number 4. It was success for Miss Icelandic. Chad Schofield teaming up with Matt Laurie for success there. Wow, he's having a wonderful run with his team at the moment, Matt. Runner-up was Passaggiata and Zealously, who was pretty popular with the punters, wasn't post-race.
No, and I think the run was quite good. Just the track yesterday at Randwick, they kept it a soft 6 all day. The times they were running against the averages were 2 and 3 seconds outside, so that track was a lot worse than a soft 6, and I'll get to another justification of that when we get to Punch Lane's race. But Miss Icelandic, first run for Matt Laurie. Gun run, just parked behind those leaders. Gap came at the 200-metre mark and through she went. Passaggiata was better. She just can't seem to win a race these days. Zealously, another one that sort of went forward early, actually led from the gate, Braithnock Road, led from the gate and then eased and then was caught 3 wide, no cover. Funny old ride. I think if they were more positive early with Zealously and got up outside the lead, probably would have won the race. So I would not be stacking Zealously going forward.
Okay, race 6 taken out by Step Aside for Chris Waller, James McDonald.
Just wanted to touch on this race. They went slowly here. It was a sprint home, and Step Aside was able to get home from probably 6 lengths off the leaders and run them all down. So what I'm basically going to say here, guys, is you can bag the rest of this field and put them all in the bin because they all had their chance to win this race and they couldn't, and that includes King of Rousseau, who I tipped, and Step Aside was far too good for them. Should they ever meet again, I'd be with Step Aside any day of the week.
Just get the filly a bit edgy today. Not work out yesterday for you on the punt? You feel a bit niggly?
It was terrible. Everything ran second, Marty, including Edward.
Yeah.
It's a new day, Chris.
Don't hold back on these jockeys. I want you to really let go at one before we go. You've just been niggling at them. Come on, let go.
On the upside, the sun has come up this morning, Chris. It's on again today, great man. Don't worry about that. And race number 8, a benchmark 100. It was Punch Lane for Nashra Willa, too good for Bold Mac and Alma Beer.
Now, if the times are right for this race, Punch Lane has run through the roof, going on the other times from yesterday's races. And as I said before, this track was worse than a soft 6 because this horse really performs well on heavy ground, and that's what he's run this quick time over. So that ground was more in the heavy range. Punch Lane straight to the front and then just extended the margin down the straight, won by almost over 4 lengths. So it was very, very good. Obviously, peak fitness now. I think it was 3rd or 4th run back and conditions to suit. So whether he gets him again next time remains to be seen. But he was a mile too good for them. Bold Mac was okay. Al Mubhir was a much better run. I think he's probably a wetty. If you look at his form, his recent runs have been pretty average, but he improved yesterday. Gikas cannot catch this horse. Every possible chance in the run was beaten 6 lengths. And Wootton Verney, the one they backed heavily from the Wallace stable, the French horse, into 290 favourite, was wide all the way. So I think you just forget that run altogether.
The volume of money that arrived for that horse, I'm tipping that there's a fair bit under the bonnet that it must have been showing them at home, because it was relentless, the money that came for that galloper. And maybe we keep following and see how this horse goes out of that run yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because, so look, 3-4 wide, the trip certainly didn't help.
Townsville Racing today, have you got a winner there?
No, we're at Toowoomba as well. We've Toowoomba's meeting from yesterday.
Oh, okay.
To today. Yes, I have. I've got a winner for you, Marty. Race 2, number 2, Brave Jet. And we'll go also with race 3, number 2, Extol each way, who had the blinkers on in a recent trial and absolutely bolted him. They are on again today from the Mark Curry stable.
Pair of twos this afternoon there at Toowoomba, 2-2 and 3-2. Beautifully done, Chris. As I've said, the sun's up. There will be a lovely breakfast for you just around the corner somewhere, I'm sure, and it'll be a wonderful day today. All the very best. We'll get around you there at Toowoomba and hopefully a bit better fortune there. Have yourself a wonderful Sunday.
If they run second, guys, you'll hear me all the way from WA. But, thanks and have a great day.
See you, mate.
God.
Blah, blah, blah. Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on the Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yes, about to catch up with Racetrack Ralphy from racetrackralphy.com. A very good morning to you, Ralphy.
Good morning, boys. Very interesting day's racing yesterday. I sort of concentrated on South Australia, to be honest, because Mooney Valley, I had no trust in Mooney Valley yesterday, and of course then I put a few I liked on Twitter and got 4 out of 5, so there you go.
Easy game, Ralphie, easy game.
It's a very easy game, exactly right. Well, look, I mean, I've got to say, the track bias is a punter's friend, yeah?
Yep.
It's not much good for owners, but you've got to swim with the tide.
Yeah, 100%. This is a very, very good meeting at Morville Hill, I thought, so I'm glad you decided to cast your attention to that meeting. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, we can start from the top. It was actually a good, strong card throughout. And that first race, Philip Stokes ran the Quinella with Regal Asmon and Aaron Bay. A couple here worth following. Air Assault and Chicago Storm have both got a fair bit of talent, and they needed that run to peak, but so did Aaron Bay. So this is, even though it was just a $75,000 race, it was an open handicap to start the day, and it's a race that can be trusted going forward.
Okay. Aaron Bay, the one to follow. It just pricked my memory that Richie Ballard heard an interview with Stokes, and he said that Aaron Bay would really need the run, and whatever he did on this race is improving on. So maybe we follow him, Aaron Bay, as well, as you said.
100%.
Yep.
Race number 2. It was Legacy Bound, the very well-backed favourite, defeating the other horse that was popular in the market in Steel Trap. So the market got this one right, Ralphie.
Well, no doubt. And as the caller said, Growing Empire won this race last year. There were 4 1,200-metre races yesterday, so they've run 1 round 1 in the Sangster, which was high pressure and high class, Group 1, as you expect. The Tobin Bronze was a good, solid 3-year-old. But what I like here is that this horse, Legacy Bound, and he's won dominantly and without wide lane advantage, has run the same time as Beauty Rising in last. Now, I know it's only benchmark 68, but that was still a whole lot of tough, fit horses, and this horse who dominated in his first race starter has gone on with it. So I think Robbie Griffiths has got a real smart one here, Legacy Bound.
By Ole Kirk, Hot Sire. Go to race number 3. Andrew Glewison, Jason Holder, and Watch Me Win, the favourite here. Did most things right to get the money.
It did. There wasn't a lot of pace on here, so a couple can improve. Sons Doot, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out. I don't think there was a Flemington meeting for it, so I think that's probably why they went across. But it's got a big close on it. Its run previously was good, so even though it was beaten a little way. But the other horse I think we can really look forward to is Press Down. It had really good winter last year. I think it won the Topaz from memory and won a couple other nice races. So it hadn't done much, and now it's just launched into a bit of form. So Watch Me Win was a nice win, perfect run, but I think Press Down's one to follow.
On to race number 4, the Group 3 Chairman Stakes. And, well, this was a much-deserved victory for one of the most consistent horses going around at the moment, Ralphy and Athanatos. Very rare that it goes to the races and doesn't come home with a gold or silver medal around its neck.
Yeah, God bless it too. I was very happy with this one, and the market actually served up a fantastic price. So here's the thing. Race to race, from its Flemington win to last start in South Australia, and Stacky got a bit of criticism for going too early. Well, they flew. The first section was 10 lengths faster race to race from Flemington to his lead-up 2 weeks earlier. So the market sort of let you on, I don't think he can run 2,000. Well, when they're just sauntering and he's in the absolute A1 position, they can. And I noticed afterwards, Stokesy said, no South Australian Derby will tip him out, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does a Mr. Quickie and aims him at the Toorak for that type of race. So that's nothing we can make money out of going forward. Lavalier, Saint Emilion and Snoopy Now all ran well with the Derby in mind next week. And I'd be very interested in St. Emilion. I think it's about $26 for next week. And it was just a switch-on run. I know it had the perfect run. It wasn't high pressure, but that's a perfect backup situation. So I reckon Kieran Mars put the circle around South Australian Derby. Nice run yesterday, and then peaks next week at huge odds.
Agree with you there. On to race number 5, the Tobin Bronze over the 1,200 metres. This horse is up and firing now. Reserve bank for Blake Shin, Mick Price and Michael Kent.
Yeah, and maybe that last point that you just said about Price and Kent too. Did they have a day out yesterday? They probably could have got another one too that we'll get to. But it was dominant, really strong. Came from that Moonee Valley track that was just terrible, as I sort of touched on in March. And then it's one last start, and it's improved again yesterday. Sabaj has got a nice, good sprint on it, lightly raced. It's on the up. Winner's Edge has been pretty well exposed. I think Sweetheart is ready for the right race too. So I actually black booked it from its previous run, but I just wasn't expecting it to be in a run in a race this strong. So I think Sweetheart, just in something slightly easier, is ready to win.
All righty, moving on to race number 6, the Queen of the South Group 2 affair, and Zlotty's got there in the nick of time for punters, defeating Lady in Pink and Seeking Stardom. Yeah,
and he's unbelievable begging, isn't he? So look, it's just got there, but look at the time, 1:37.2. I think that's significantly, well, stating the fact, it's significantly slower than that first race. So they just walked here. I think Froggy got it wrong on Jenny Lala, trying to go as slowly as possible. And really that compressed the field, including on display that would have been a coma if you're on at $41, because I'm pretty sure that should have won with clear air. It doesn't mean it was the best horse, but under that circumstance yesterday, it could have won, could have, should have. But Zlotty's is just on the up. It'll take no harm from this. Don't know if there's another race for it in South Australia or if they head north or spell, but it's going to keep winning. Lady in Pink, though, I think is the one we can put the big circle around. Now, yes, it's gone forward on a very soft tempo, but I thought it was half a run short. That was only second up yesterday, so from there it can really extend. And don't forget, it can handle wet ground as well. And the Pain Runners too, they're ready with the tempo did against Sione and Wings of Song.
I haven't done a deep dive on the Oaks, but just watching it live out at Ascot yesterday, looked like they went pretty quick in this. Did they early?
Well, yeah, I'd say so. I mean, they've come home absolutely legless. Vince's data isn't through yet, but just looking at the official time, 37.3 last 600, and you've got Bennegill, Polymnia moving out, all came from near the first three. The last three positions. So, yeah, I think they were flying. Vince's theory, which I've really sort of gravitated to over the past decade of learning it, is the elastic band theory. So if they're flying, you want to be 3 to 6 lengths from the lead.
Yep.
And I think that actually backs it up too, because if you look at Sweltering at 200 to 1 and Cavity Bay at $41, they were the ones who exceeded the market. So those two were in the perfect position. The others weren't. So, but what a beautiful Mark Zara. I reckon he's as good as J-Mac in big races. There you go. He just absolutely nails the brief every time. Flowing, momentum run in the best lanes. And I probably underestimated this mare a little bit too, this filly a little bit too. So if they go to Queensland, I think it's very dangerous, Benegal, because it's still was only fourth up yesterday. I think there's more to come there. Preliminary was sound, and so was moving out from 2 back. But as I said last week, the concern always with a quick backup, if they walk at a mile and then go to a fast 2,000, it's just going to test you out a little bit.
All righty, on to race number 8 on the program, the Group 1 Sangster Stakes, and Charmstone. It was tipped out by a couple of very good judges on this program yesterday morning.
Who was that, Shorty?
Marty Young and Richie Bell were on air, Ralphie, and I can tell you, anybody tuned in, if you were going to have one bet on the day listening to these two yesterday, Charmstone would have been the one, and to their credit, it got up at a juicy price. $11 is a really nice win.
Magnificent. Well played, boys.
I think he plagiarised me, Ralphie. I think he plagiarised me, Belly. Yeah. We'll discuss this between 8 and 9 today. But yeah, I've got a point.
Marty is suggesting that Richie may have read the book the night before and then come out the next morning and claim that he's just brought out a new novel.
And that would never happen in the media, would it? But look, nailed the brief, price 10 again, and they're so good first up. And Mark Zara again, so good in a big race. We knew this filly had talent in that spring of 23. You know, that close-up run in serious time to militarise NCAP cylinder. Butch Cassidy in that Gold Rose after winning its first 2 runs at Caulfield and Moonee Valley said it was a filly of immense promise, but missing 385 days. What you had to trust was that it could return to that, and it returned to it big time. And as I said, Zara nailed the brief. Team Freeman, they're just geniuses to it, setting horses for big races. So Amina was first up as well. And Commemorative's run well. She probably peaked at Randwick 3 starts back in that unbelievable performance. And then a couple of the others were either disappointing or, in the case of Stratton Angel, don't drop off it in the Goodwood next week. Tommy, you got it wrong, son. Go to the inside when the outside was the clear best lanes.
Last of the day, and it was Beauty Rising. Philip Stokes having a good day. Tommy Stockdale rides.
Yeah, I was very happy with this one too, boys. So it was a pretty mixed sort of form line here and basic sort of quality. But Beauty Rising, I thought, was flat last start after a good win the previous start, and was able to rebound well. But horses to follow, I think. Just expect this one, Saint Emilion in the Derby next week. And from that mares race, there's going to be a couple of good improvers like Lady in Pink and, like I said, the Payne duo there. At Moonee Valley, pretty basic sort of stuff, but we had horses to follow like LOU and El Rocco winning, and New York Clusters. EJ's got a nice one there who'll probably keep winning there. But the ones from the Friday,
Flemington,
touch on there. There's some a couple of nice horses. Yeah. So, do you want to say it?
Your man. Graham Begg, King Zephyr. So
he reminds me of Nonconformist, this horse. He might be a real serious horse.
Oh, he is. There's no doubt about it. Look, he's part-owned in WA. Tom Percy, well-known KC over here and horse racing man for many, many years. And John Price, who's been a great mate of Tom over the years, bought this horse and he didn't pay a lot of money for it either. And, he's got group written all over him.
Oh, 100%. I don't often black book them from the midweekers, but I did this one, and there was one earlier in the day as well, No Fuss. I think the McAvoys have got a real nice one there as well, and probably had the tempo against him. I think he's a better chaser, No Fuss. He was left in front a long way out. And from that King Zephyr race, Otago as well, that was a really nice return for price 10, having missed so much racing.
Yeah, they paid $35,000 for him, King Zephyr.
Oh, money well spent.
Yeah.
Done well there. Just a quick one with Overpass, boys. Just had a quick look at Vince's data. This was what actually happened was they've gone exactly the same first split as the winner bottom, but then they've dropped anchor. So it ended up being a real negative because it and front page just controlled it so quickly. that they lost momentum, whereas you compare the Winterbottom, it was fast early, but it kept being fast in the mid-race, and that gassed out all the chases. So, yesterday, conversely, they dropped anchor, and that the blending runners come into it, but all honours that Joker's Grin. I nailed him last spring. He's a beauty, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He was good any side of the country, that horse.
Very nice horse. Ralphie, a fortnight's a long time in football.
It certainly is. Look, we're on a massive roll, and and with due respect to a lot of your listeners and supporters, I think we've got the juggernaut of West Coast, but I think we're going to test them next week.
Well done, Ralphie. All your good work at racetrackralphie.com.au. He's a star. Love having him on the show every Sunday. Get those texts in. Brad Hardie will be coming up next, and we'll address these texts on 0427 789 571. That is for Retrovision. We count it down. Currently in Perth, it is a chilly 7.5 degrees, so snuggle up in bed for another hour and listen to us.
After a huge weekend of racing and sport, we can all do with a Sunday saviour to round out the punting weekend in winning style. The Tab Touch Sunday Saviour is here to sweeten your Sunday on the punt. It's over to the boys to provide this week's edition of Tab Touch Sunday Saviour.
Yes, the Sunday Saviour. Get involved, punters through.
On the Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Oh, good morning, Bradley.
Morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty. Good to be with you, boys. I tell you what, there was only one bigger winner than the Grand Eagle yesterday in the first at Randwick, and that was the Western Bulldogs last night. Can you get in the All-Australian team in 6 quarters of footy?
I think you can. Absolutely you can. You can have the feet up on the dashboard at 3/4 time if you like, Bradley.
Oh, well.
It's been remarkable. It's been remarkable for the Bont to come back and not Mr. Stride. And, yeah, no, they were my best outsiders of the week, Shorty, as you know, talking to the boys on the daily. And sometimes you can get confused with biasness and all that sort of stuff, but we always match up well against them. And, you know, it was a really good, hard-fought first half. And we just knew that if we could be with them, they haven't been as potent with their tsunami, Marty. You know what I mean? If you can keep the ball on the inside and not allow them to get that overlap from, you know, half-back sort of around the wings and down the guts like when they get into the forward line, you've got a chance. And big call to leave Liam Jones out of the team.
Certainly
he hasn't been in the best of form, Shorty, and they put young Buslinger in there and threw O'Donnell over to Hogan, and look, they combined beautifully. So it was a fantastic win by the Bulldogs last night. They were very happy, I assure you of that.
Right now, Bevo is coaching in splendid fashion. It would be very easy for him to throw his hands up in the air and say, all the drama with Ugal Hagen, which he's been able to compartmentalise, park that to the side, get on with football. Out of this, the beautiful part, if you're a Dogs fan, is it's created opportunities, and now all of a sudden we're realising that the Bulldogs have got genuine depth in this playing squad because they've continued to find guys to come up and play their role and fill the hole. There's been development. I think a really good measure of a coach is are players getting better when you are coaching them. And there's a couple of guys from other clubs that the Doggies have picked up, and you have a look at their performances in a game like this last night, namely Harms and Kennedy, and you go, wow, these guys that have come in from other clubs, unheralded, and played really good footy. We get to see the real development of a young guy like Riley Sanders, who I think is having an excellent season, and a number of the sort of lesser-known sort of players that have been role players are now stepping up and playing a legitimate part as game winners. And we speak of someone like Harms with 4 there last night. Riley West, excellent. 3 goals for him there last night. Ed Richards has gone to another level through the middle of the ground. There's an awful lot to like if you're a Dogs fan at the minute.
Yeah. Injury creates opportunities to say, Shorty, and it's been really good. I mean, they had 8 blokes under 20 games last night, which is pretty good. So when you think about it, only 4 from 2016, 10 from 2021, and everyone's hungry, and you've got to play well. You know, Johannesson's come back into the lineup, giving them a bit of a dash off half-back flank, and, Lob can go back and forwards, obviously with no Darcy. Yeah, and the one thing, and you hear it every year, boys, it doesn't matter whether it's the Bulldogs or West Coast or whoever it may may be. My door's always open, and it's a clean slate. And if you play well, you will get picked. Well, he's doing that, and they feel like, okay, yeah, he's a man of his word. I'm playing all right in the VFL. I'm getting an opportunity to play in the AFL, and he's taking a chance on these lads, and they've come along nicely, and they're playing for him. And as I said, Shorty, with all those injuries across, which you well covered off there, they were hoping to be 3-3, Marty, after 50-50 after 6, and now they're 4-3, and not being smart, it could have easily been
correct
5-2 because they should have beaten Collingwood.
Should have beaten Collingwood, who are the hottest side in the comp at the moment.
In the comp.
Where are we with GWS after 2 very disappointing performances?
Yeah, I'm concerned about them. I'm just not sure they've got the rabidness that we've seen for the last couple of years. We thought they were, because we saw them against Collingwood in round 0, and we thought, oh, hello, they've arrived. He's got them back up again. But every week they've just seemed to just waned off a little bit. And last week against Adelaide, and that form didn't stand up, did it? I mean, because for either team. And you thought, oh, well, it was a hard-fought game.
Heavy track.
They just don't... Yeah, they just don't seem to have that polish anymore. And Hogan is just, he's been terrific. He was good again last night. Riccardi got a couple. Cadman's sort of in and out. He's their forward line's not really functioning with the way they like, and their midfield, it's good without being great. And they're pretty much one-trick ponies with Whitfield coming off a half-back flank. Ash gets a lot of ball, but it's very deep in the last 25, Shorty, and he racks up the numbers. But yeah, they're getting their numbers, etc. But they just don't seem to have that orange tsunami. If you can stop the ball movement like Hawthorn, Marty, which you identified, if you can stop them from kick-ins, they're pretty much, almost rendered listless.
Before last night, they've dropped to 16th rated, change from defence to score. Now, that used to be their one wood.
Yep, that's right.
2 weeks in a row.
Work them out.
They've been forced to kick long down the line, Brad. And unfortunately, they don't have a truckload of big, strong, key marking players to get it down the line. If
who go up the ground.
If it's not Briggs or Hogan, there's no one else really getting up the ground to the wing to take that mark. So they're getting beaten on the wing and turning it over back the other way. Yep. And Hogan and Green are sitting there getting cold. So they've got to find a way to get through this.
We talk about it all the time. If you play blokes like Riley West and Vandermeer, at the moment, you put them on Wangaleen Millerer and Sinclair the week before, and then you butter up again with Whitfield and co last night. It's one thing to limit their run off the back flank, but if you hurt them on the way back by going through those guys and giving them an opportunity, I mean, Vandermeer didn't hurt them on the score, had a couple of chances, but Riley West has been, and that's the idea. That's the idea for all teams. I say that all the time. It's one thing to play a defensive forward, but you've got to reward that bloke, on the way back if you can. And they've been doing that. So, it's becoming a very handy tool to have in the shed.
Okay, let's have a look at those other games played yesterday. Being out at Ascot, I didn't see any of them. St Kilda, Brisbane, St Kilda 73, Brisbane 118, and Port 97, North Melbourne 88.
Well, take this in the spirit it's meant, please, Shorty. I know it's Anzac weekend, Marty, and I'm making light of it, but I'm not making light of it, if you know what I mean. St Kilda could bore for Australia. They are a fair income. That first quarter was damage control, Shorty, from bounce down number 1. Pitching a soccer parlay, you would have spoken to our man Simon this morning. Park the bus. I mean, it was 11 inside 50s, Marty, to 1 in the first 15 minutes. So you can imagine what was going on. It was just that Brisbane weren't putting it on the board. There was that many blokes down there. There was 36 down there, pretty much. It was like Buddha Hocking that day playing for Coach and Peel, Shorty. Yeah. It was unbelievable, and I thought, what is going on here? And eventually, I mean, they never got out of second gear, Brisbane, and it wasn't until after half-time when the shackles were released a little bit. Windhager was going between McGluggage and they let Lockie Neal off the leash, and you can see his numbers and his goals, mainly in the first half, just did all the damage. And it's not a great look and you can blame everything in the world, the coach, but there's a few blokes at St Kilda are a bit confused. Look like they were, body language looked like they were disinterested. I think, is the way, because it's such a taxing way to play footy, boys. It's not much fun. You want to enjoy playing footy, yeah. You don't want to get smashed and beaten on but if you're not enjoying your footy and the whole idea is to just do damage control on the scoreboard, it's not much fun. And Brisbane could have won by as far as they wanted to kick their hat. I mean, that game was probably, if you pick up the paper this morning, Marty, and you said you looked at it and said, it must have been a competitive game, 118-73. Well, in the last quarter, it was dead set, T20 footy. That's all it was. Like you have a go, we'll have a go. Every time St Kilda got a goal, Brisbane reacted within 30 seconds. Every time.
Yeah, quick answers. There were quick answers on the way through. Hipwood, he's actually stepped up and played some pretty good footy this year. 4 goals for him yesterday. Lockie Neal with 3.
First
Zach
half,
Bailey is also having a good year. He ended up with a 3.
Yeah.
Jack Higgins, in a side that aren't necessarily flying, is having a really good start to the season. He'd be up there in contention for that small forward spot. Another 3 goals for him in a losing cause for the Saints there yesterday.
Yeah. Well, there was one little incident there because Ross Lyon decided he would take Garcia. He subbed Garcia out in the second quarter. Now, the kid is only young. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, they were getting beat up in the middle of the ground, but that was because, I think they had the wrong people in the middle of the ground, Shorty, in the centre bounce downs, etc. Brisbane were coming out at will. But, the kid tackles, and that's what you want. That's just, you don't burn the kid, because, you want to make a statement to the team. You burn one of the older blokes. I mean, burn Steele or one of those who've been absolutely hopeless. I mean, they're not right. If they're not fit, they shouldn't be playing. And they put them in there, and they continually put them in there. And his one trick pony is to put Wanganeen Miller in there from a halfback flank. Well, we saw that last week with Liberatore. That's fine. You can go in there, but he gets on the end of it. He doesn't win it.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? And that doesn't help you. So you're not helping the cause to try and quell the bleeding, because whoever he puts in there are waiting to leave the scene of the action and get the handball receive and drive the ball into their own forward 50. Well, if they're any good, which the Dogs and Brisbane are at clearances at ground level, they'll just nail you to the wall. And they did it again yesterday.
How about this match, Port and North Melbourne?
Yeah, well, it was a game. I mean, look, Port, to be brutally honest, I mean, we're always in control. They just said, well, we'll outscore you. If you want to kick 10 goals, we'll kick 11, and so on and so forth. And that's the way. It got exciting there in the last quarter, but Port really always had the upper hand. It was better from North Melbourne. They've been the whipping boys this week. They surrounded the wagons, as we said. Todd Viney came out and, gave them all of the, get off Clarko's back, and we were happy and all of that sort of stuff. So it'll allay the criticism for a little bit. But, yeah, it's one of those games where, a bit like Fremantle the other night, Shorty, take the points and run. That doesn't matter how you play, how you go about it, as long as you get the money in the bank. And, obviously there's a little bit of interaction between Horn Francis and the North Melbourne boys. You walked out on us. But, I mean, he's a class act. I mean, every time he gets to footy, it's danger. You know what I mean? And they've tricked it up a little bit. Rosie coming off a half-back flank, that sort of stuff. So Georgiades just continues to thrive and play well. They're going okay. And Pel Pepper's that defensive forward we spoke about with the Bulldogs, where he's doing a job and looking after a key defender, run-off player, and kicking goals going back the other way.
Yeah, the other man needs props, continues to front up and kick 2 or 3 every week. He's done it every game this year. It's Paul Curtis. He might be a bit of a lesser light, but the more this season goes on, the more people are going to understand just how good a player this young man is.
Yeah, and again, the other boy from WA, Zurha, he's got he's stringer mark too. He's got all of it, and when he turns it on, Shorty, it's terrific, but it doesn't sustain. It just doesn't happen for anywhere long enough in 4 quarters, let alone a whole game. If he could just give you 8 or 9 minutes a quarter, that'd be a start. You know what I mean? But he doesn't. He's sort of in and out, and no, exactly. He doesn't have I don't know whether he doesn't have the will or he doesn't have the motor, or it's a bit of both. But he can excite when he's on, but it's one of those players that excites in for a few moments, and then you don't see him for the next 20 minutes.
Just back to Stringer too. His days have got to be numbered there. He has to be dropped soon. He's been pathetic the last 2 weeks.
Hasn't worked for him. As I say, that forward line's a little bit dysfunctional up there. I mean, Jesse's holding a candle, at the moment, and he's not getting much support, although Riccardi did get amongst it early last night with his game goals.
Quick couple for Retrovision here. Boys, I went to the Dockers Anzac Day match, and the club does it so well. The night fixture allows teams to use all the best features of this elite stadium. Even at three-quarter time, the bagpiper played in muted light was terrific. The lighting is amazing. Great performance, and we won. Cheers. That is from Rick. So that is terrific.
Yep.
What did you make of the game? Brad Fremantle winning 85 to Adelaide 67.
Well, as you expected, after a very, very poor performance, really, against Melbourne the week before, they had to, if they were horses, Shorty, they'd schooled them over the hurdles, and that's what they did down at Coburn during the week. And, and they took ownership of it and talked it up, and, they came out and their first quarter won the game. That's it. I mean, they really did. They were harder and they got going, and, Brayshaw led the way, and, things were, Tracy was up and about, up forward, and things were going really, really good. And then again, I thought Adelaide didn't turn up, and then even when they did turn up, their ball use was awful, Marty.
Yeah.
The half-metre handballs. Well, here's your problem now, Marty. Well, hang on, I don't want to. Give it to Shorty, and nothing changed. They were hopeless. I mean, even Jordan Dawson, who's normally such an excellent user of the ball, Shorty, just kept kicking the ball up in the air. I mean, it was up the chimney, and sometimes, it was just about numbers. They weren't getting any flow. Their forward line really lacked. Pearce did a magnificent job on Walker. Tilthorpe hurt his finger and was unsighted really until after half time when he got a bit of juice in it. And the 5 minutes of the red time in the third quarter, Shorty. So, in a nutshell, not being too harsh, as I said, same as Port Adelaide. Take the 4 points and run, because in 2 months' time, wherever they are, you'll look back and say, well, we won't care anyway, as long as you get the money, and they got the money. But people are worried about them not running out the last quarter, not scoring a goal, and they kicked 5 behinds. But the problem was that Adelaide kicked 4-5, so they had twice as many chances and converted a little bit. So that's a small concern. But in essence, in a nutshell, their first quarter and the 5 minutes of red time in the third quarter won the game for Freo.
Indeed. It's okay to win ugly sometimes, particularly when you're disappointing the week before. Just go out there, grab the points, like you say, throw on the balaclava, get the money and get out of there. That's what they were able to do. And just briefly, every year, one of my favourite contests is always this Anzac Day clash. And once again, despite it ending up being fairly one-sided in the end, the quality of football that was played, people talk about the job the Dockers did. I can't help but bring a tear to your eye. Every year, the build-up to this game is just magnificent, the job they do there at the MCG. And Collingwood were up for this from the get-go. They were spectacular. And right now, Brad, they are playing high-quality football.
Yeah, I texted Marty after the game because, we had a handle on it. We've been going pretty well in the same game, Maldives. And I thought, how do they kick 107 points in that weather? You knew the rain. We warned the punters, just be careful because the rain is going to come and it's going to be probably intermittent showers, but it actually was stronger than that. I don't know. It just descended over the MCG. But for them to kick in excess of 100 points, in that sort of condition was marvellous. And, they've really got well organised, aren't they? And, Sidebottom, Pendlebury, the Dacos boys, etc., they just know where to put themselves strategies-wise and to win the footy. They protect the ground really well. Essendon made a bit of a dash in the third quarter, but it was unfortunately short-lived for the fans. And, they're doing a good job after round 0. When we thought, that was it. They got smashed by GWS in that round 0, and we thought, there might be a bit of trouble here. And as I say, the Dogs should have got them, but to be brutally honest, they did a fantastic job against Brisbane the week before, and they did a terrific job again. And well done, to Fremantle, Collingwood, all the team. But those clubs in particular have taught us more about Anzac Day than any school will.
Spot on.
Footy has been a conduit for enlightening everybody.
Correct, Armando. Before we look at these games, just checking scores in the waffle as well. We've had a couple of texts this morning, and the 3 Saturday games: Swan Districts 48, Peel Thunder 53. Swans are in some trouble this year. East Fremantle 100 defeated Subi 70. And they're doing it for Buzz, the Mighty Demons. Perth 15-3-93 beat East Perth 9-8-62. On Friday night, Claremont beat West Coast. And back on Thursday, the Garlic Munchers went down to the Mighty Bulldogs 91-64. Always good to beat the Garlics.
Don't they love it? Bradley, the doggies. It's all home away from home.
Oh, yeah, the old fellow. Well, he was a great Joe Fancy. We used to. There was quite a few up there. Gold, but we used to give it to him. We love giving it to the garlic munchers. There's no doubt about that, Marty.
Quick one here from Mario. Always sends in a good text. Morning, lads. Parfitt and Constable, big numbers again. 33 and 35 for Perth in their win over East Perth. West Coast could do with either or both of them in the mid-season draft. Thoughts there, Mario? Go Cats.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Parfitt, as you know, Marty. I had a chat to Bevo about him before he ended up going to WA. I said, I think he'd be okay, this bloke. He's a role player. I mean, he can't get into that midfield down at Geelong, Shorty, and I think the pennies dropped for him. I think he's a class act in terms of, just a layer short than obviously some of those down at Geelong, but every time he played for Geelong, he knew his role, he knew what he needed to do, but unfortunately, last man in, first man off, and he didn't really get the opportunity. So, I think West Coast should take him. I really would.
Well, there you go.
They should take him.
Couple of games, 3 games to go on this round. Surely Gold Coast handles Sydney. They've just got no players. Carlton Geelong's the game of the round, really, and then Hawthorn and West Coast.
Yeah. Oh, look. Gold Coast need to get back on the horse, and for Coxie's point of view, so does Sydney. And have a look at it's only early, but have a look at the gap between the top two teams and what's happening down from 13 or 12 down. It's Essendon 11 down. The gap's getting a bit far already. So, Sydney need to get going. Gold Coast need to rebound. They were terrible last week. I can't have Carlton, I'm sorry. I mean, they've won 4 out of their last 15, and they've beaten West Coast and North Melbourne twice, Shorty. So each. So you're not going to get me there. I think Geelong show up, they win that one, and God Almighty, good luck. It is a day to go to church, and I think if I'm a West Coast Eagles supporter, I would be going to the 3 masses today. I would have gone at 8, I would have gone at 10, and I'll be going again at midnight.
You're running out of money to put in the plate. Morning, guys, and Sophie.
Just back Joker's grin. That's what I say.
Yes, what a price, Jokers.
I once saw this, and I'll never forget it. I saw a fellow at church one Sunday morning as a young fellow, Bradley. He put a $10 note into the bowl and wheeled out a 20. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Slip of the hand.
I saw it. I didn't say anything at the time, but I said to my mum after church, "You're not going to believe what I saw there today. This guy is a magician."
It's like the bloke wanted to be buried with all his cash, and somebody wrote a cheque and threw that in and took the cash.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Hey, before we get your Sunday saviour, we've got to get to Lisa of Allenbrook. Morning, guys. Yes. One thing about Bevo, he's not worried about dropping players, and the moves he made last night paid off. Brad, Oscar Allen, start his football as a backman. He's not playing well up forward. Should McQualter do what Bevo did with Lobb and throw him into the back line as another tool to help? Gov.
Yeah.
Tim Kelly's out. Someone stood on his toe at training. Brad, years ago, players were dragged off for doing the wrong thing. Why are coaches reluctant to do that these days? Example, Horn Francis. That's from Lisa of Ellenbrook.
Yeah, well, it's different nature these days. With the fire and brimstone, unfortunately, you don't have many shots in the barrel these days. Mel Brown would have taken you off, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. But you got to kiss and cuddle them these days, Lisa. That's the way.
What about Allen to go back? What do you think there?
Oh yeah, look, I mean that's just rank and file, But as I say, it would work better. We're waiting, or West Coast have been waiting to see what it was like to have, Waterman and him back in the same lineup, and they haven't seen that yet. So, and Waterman's going okay, but there's no doubt. Oh, look, he's on show today, Oscar. I think he'll want to show something to Hawthorn. I'm not sure if they're absolutely enamoured with him, and then I'm not sure Brisbane are either. So, yeah, he's just got to fire. I don't care where he plays. He's got to give us more than 10 minutes.
Bit of effort.
I've loved Oscar Allen as a footballer, but the last couple of years, I thought he would stand up as a leader and really carry this footy club. I don't know if it's his body now that's letting him down, that's not allowing him to do that, Bradley, but he was showing the signs of really being a dominant sort of forward in the competition going back a few years ago. He just hasn't gone on with it.
Yeah, I won't bore you with the tears just have it, but have a look at his stats, Shorty, over a period of time, and how many games has he played and how many goals he's kicked. I mean, and he had one big year there, Marty. Not so long ago. I'm just trying to find him just quickly here for you, boys. He's been in the system a while now. He's kicked He's kicked 143 goals in 98 games, Shorty, including 53 in 1 year.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be. I only went to school to eat my lunch, but the bottom line is, if you take that 53 away from the overall total, he hadn't kicked. He's not, mate. He's no Wayne Carey.
No, that is for sure.
I think the people are overshooting the mark a little bit here.
Sunday saviour from you, Bradley.
Oh, yes, no worries about that. Oh, well, we don't need one today. But Seymour, race 2, number 4, Frosted in Time, $3.40, Shorty. Port Macquarie, race 6, number 7, Seymour Stars. That's in as the name of the track. Seymour, $2.90. And Ballarat, race 6, number 1, Scampy, the shorty of the day, $1.75. That's our put in and take out, hopefully. So Seymour, race 2, number 4. Port Macquarie, race 6, number 7. Ballarat, race 6, number 1. That's $17.25 for Ginger and I today. That's where we're going.
Ginger on Campfire Jack the other day. She cleaned up. $10 straight out. SJ said Ginger's on. We'll be getting the money. Now, before we go any further...
Can I just say, Joker's Grim, what a win that was.
What a win. Oh, amazing.
What a race, you know.
We are amazed by the win. And what about one of our own here, Shorty? Jesse Earnshaw.
Yeah, wanted to give a shout out to Jesse this morning, Bradley. Jesse, of course, with the passing of his dad only a few weeks ago now, has taken over the training for the kennel. And we were chatting to him on Friday morning here on Chasing Winners, myself and Peter O'Neill, and he'd sort of said, I've had a few starters. It feels like it's taking forever for this first win to come. And we said, I'm sure it's only around the corner, mate. And well done to him last night. In a heat of the Sprinters Plate, he had must-see, get the cash. His first winner outright as a trainer in his own name. He's taken over his dad's training ranks, and off that performance last night, it'll be the first of many, many more wins to come.
$14.70, if you don't mind, punters.
Indeed. So well done to Jesse.
And in a word, how would you describe the week it's been? The Sandgroper, the Nullarbor, and the
Massive.
Blocker?
Massive at cover it.
Yeah.
Huge, yeah.
Cool.
It's so good for the all three codes, Brad.
Yep.
We were saying at the start of the program this morning, it's a real fillip for all three to have the nights that we've had, the races that we've had, but just the crowd and the participation and getting. It's tough in today's society to get people to an event of any description. So when they all turn up 3 nights in a row, huge crowd there, Friday night, Gloucester Park. It's the biggest crowd I've seen at the Dogs for a very long time. And importantly, lots of little kids and families there running around on the grass. It's the next generation that you want to have those experiences that they'll look forward to and be comfortable going to a racetrack for the rest of their life.
Oh, no doubt about that. I think everybody can, or particularly us, a bit more elderly, but the listeners too. I mean, you can always recall the good dogs and the good horses, paces and gallopers, 50 years ago, can't you?
Of course you can.
Because when you were a kid, you remember you went to that venue, where it was Richmond Raceway or wherever it was, Ascot, and you can always recall a really good horse that just caught your eye and your attention when you were a kid.
Tell you what you got to do is head out to Retrovision. How many shops has he got in his state? Group 1 Morts.
17 Group 1 Morts is going fantastic. That one out at Lisa sends in all the text at Ellenbrook is flying, which is a beauty. And don't forget the Nude Nut, 1-800-100-100. We keep saying it. We're in an election period right now, and it might become even more important. Who knows? He can do things the banks can't, and don't you get frustrated when the banks won't tell you why they're not going to give you that money. And you get to a stage where, don't forget, Frankie Lee, too, from Monday to Friday, because he's really, really good. Frankie Lee, you champion.
All right. We'll look forward to that mail to come in from Hong Kong, too, later today. Big racing at Sha Tin. You've been very good today, Brad. I think, when the Bulldogs are good, you're even better.
Oh, well, exactly right. It does help when you win.
You
can relax and watch the footy. When you can actually relax, Shorty.
We'll be listening in tomorrow morning. It should be good. See you, Brad.
All right, boys.
4:50 to go. Minstrel leads by 2 metres. Swayze on the outside is trying his heart out. Otis is over on the inside. Mr. Smarty pulls out 3 wide, but the leaders are absolutely flying again. 28-4. Then Mighty Ronaldo. Catch a Wave looks too far back around the turn. Roberts goes for Minstrel. Otis tries to get clear. Mr. Smarty. Swayze struggling in the centre. Minstrel in front. Here's Mr. Smarty down the outside. It's Mr. Smarty racing up to Minstrel. Takes the lead. Down the outside is he's a sport late. Swayze comes back as well, but Mr. Smarty too good. Mr. Smarty has won.
Well, there it is, Shorty. The Nullarbor there on Friday night. Gary Hall Senior joins us to talk about the win of Mr. Smarty. Congratulations, Senior. Well done.
Yeah, thanks very much, Shorty, Marty. Thank you.
Great to be catching up with you this morning.
I'm going to say, you're still croaky.
I'll tell you what, I don't blame you. I don't think you're alone. There were plenty of locals that were getting nice and vocal there on track on Friday night. What a special win, though, Senior. You've been speaking about this horse for a pretty significant period of time for anybody that was prepared to listen, and told us that it was a very serious pacer, and Friday night was the crowning moment for this horse.
Yeah, aided by a great drive by Gary as well, too. So, everything went to plan, and I actually tipped it to Marty, I think.
You did? Yeah, no, I told the putters on Friday on drive, I said, look, I caught up with Gary at the Western Trilogy luncheon and asked you, how do you think you can go? And the first thing you said was, we'll win it. That was confidence.
I was pretty confident all week about him. I was more nervous than I've been in a big race for a long time, because when you think that you're going to win, the only thing you can get is disappointment when they get beat, sort of thing. So I was, but he came through. He's a great horse, and he's going to get better because he's only had 21 or 22 starts, sort of thing. So.
That was the point that you straightened me up on about how good you reckon this horse is.
Well, he's not as good as the Mighty Queen, because he hasn't got that absolute scintillating point-to-point speed that Queenie had. But he's got no bottom to him. He's very, very tough, and he's reasonably fast. He can, once he gets up and gets running, he can sustain it. You know, so I'm very very big about his future. You know, sort of thing. If he stays sound, he's going to be one of the better horses for a couple of years in WA.
Well, you briefly touched on it, but the drive from Junior was just superb. When you draw 7, there's scope for it to be messy and you to be caught wide or have to do too much work within the run, but he just summed it up beautifully. And to land that 1-1 position from gate 7 is something that many drivers don't find themselves in. He really summed the situation up beautifully.
Yeah, he seems to be able to do that in the big races. Sometimes in the lesser races he has a brain fade, but... in the bigger races, I've never seen him make too many blues. He's got an uncanny knack of doing that, and pretty much without him, I wouldn't have won the big races that I've won. I know that for sure.
On Wednesday, it was an impromptu appearance, a cameo on the show. We were talking to Hayden King, and he was playing golf, and he had the great Russell T. Betts alongside of him. And I said, this map of this race is so important. He said, well, we'll get Betsy on and talk about it. And Betsy, in that conversation, said he thought that this horse may have been a bit dour last start before the Nullarbor, and that he thought you'd freshen him up and got the sprint back into his legs. Was he on the money there?
Yeah, not really.
Nice setup.
No, he's quite often right about sectional times and everything like that, but that horse was just improving every run, and he came back. I brought him back after a spell. He did that well at the spell. I was a bit worried that I was running out of time to get him ready.
Yep.
So Junior didn't want to start him on the Friday night where he ran second to Catch a Wave, but I did. I said, no, I'm starting him. He needs to run. And there was no point in coming out with Catch a Wave leading so easily and putting pressure on Catch a Wave, because it was only 2,100 metres and it would have been to our detriment. So it was, he might have looked a bit dour, but, Junior didn't, push him real hard early to put pressure on Catch a Wave. It would have been pointless. So we were trying to save it for one sprint, and Catch a Wave so much faster than Mr. Smarty point to point. That's the sort of thing I was talking about, point to point speed.
Yep.
But Friday night, Junior revved him up in the prelim, and then got him on the, he woke him up a bit, and then obviously then he shows much more zip sort of thing. But it wasn't a matter of freshening him up. It was just a matter of getting him fit and being right on the night.
Okay.
I think he'll be better for next Friday night. That's what I think. So
Fremantle Cup.
Yeah, so the run would have done him good in the 2,900 metres. He'll love it. The only thing I'm hoping is that Swayze doesn't draw the lead, because if he leads in Gloucester Park, nobody will beat him.
Okay. Did you think that they sort of overdid it a bit out in front, Swayze and the Breeze outside of Minstrel, or were you happy the sectionals they were running?
I was very happy with them. I was just
sitting back smoking.
I was laughing and sort of giggling and running, but I think Cameron Hart was a little bit arrogant. I think he only went out there with one plan, and that was to make sure he beat Minstrel. But I think he paid little or no attention to the ability that Mr. Smarty's got, and I think that's a little bit arrogant, but that's typical of Eastern States people about our horses.
Yeah.
We've got a real good record. I know that's the first nullable we've won, but I think we were very unlucky in the first one with Jumping Jack Mac because Better Zip had got a real easy lead and they caught us with our pants down that night, but it didn't happen Friday night, that's for sure.
Particularly here, though, it's very hard to come and beat good horses at Gloucester Park.
Yeah. It is. Gloucester Park, they keep calling it a front runner's track, but it's not really. In the bigger races when there's there's a lot of really good horses. I've won a lot of pacing cups from barrier 9 sort of thing, but if there's two horses in the race like Catch a Wave and Smarty draws bad, Catch a Wave leads over the shorter distance, the lead is impossible to beat sort of thing, and that's a circumstance,
So there are limitations by the sounds with Mr. Smarty when it comes up against a fast horse that can lead. But outside of that, when it comes to being able to out-tough horses and also just with its racecraft, there's a lot of upside still to come from what you've said. In all of my time following the sport, Gary, you've always managed to have a really nice horse, and Mr. Smarty clearly's got that billing at the moment. You've sort of said there's no bottom to the horse. What's the future look like for you? All things being well, if Mr. Smarty stays healthy and well over the next 12 months, what can you see potentially unfolding?
Well, the question is not whether he'll stay healthy and well, it's whether I will.
Going on your voice this morning, Senior,
yeah.
I wouldn't be taking the short quote.
No, that's right. A long shot to keep going too long. But I'm 76 this year. I'm just really rapt to have a horse of this ability at this stage of my career. I never thought I'd get another horse like this, but I just love him. He's a great horse, and we'll just let him find his feet and take his time with that. After this. There's talk about going to Queensland, but it's a huge trip, and I'm not really keen on it. So I'm still thinking about it. But I really probably be setting him for this year's Pacing Cup. See if I can win that at the end of the year, and then from there on, I'll just keep picking up the bigger races in WA. I might travel east if they've got $1 million sort of into Dominion in Melbourne or Sydney because you can get a flight there. But, to get to Queensland is nearly impossible. It takes that long, and I've got to be away from the other horses for too long. I don't think I want to do that at this stage.
First things first, barrier draw for the Fremantle Cup on Tuesday, and then we go into the big race, one of the great races on our calendar next Friday night. So no rest for the wicked. And how has the horse pulled up from the win?
Yeah, that's what I said. I think he might even improve because he pulled up having a bit of a blow, and he's not one of those horses that is a real big eater. He just he eats what he has to sort of thing. And but he licked the bin Friday night, and he's as bright as a button. So I'm real happy with him for Friday night. So I'm just hoping for a barrier draw. I'd like to see him lead because I think when he leads, he's very, very hard to beat by any horse. So, and then Swayze and I can have another war.
Okay, Senior. We'll see you at the barrier draw. Well done.
No worries, mate. Thanks a lot, Shorty. Thanks, guys. Thanks, you.
Gary.
Gary Hall Senior there, always great to catch up with him.
Geez, isn't it nice to
76.
hear? He's going strong. Don't worry about that. Isn't it great to hear, though, that sparkle in his croaky voice, albeit, that Mr. Smarty, he didn't think he'd get another horse to this level. It speaks volumes of the opinion he has of this horse. We know he's had top-line elite performers in the past, but he's always been very, very confident about the ability levels of Mr. Smarty, and it was wonderful. That would have been special. It must be a buzz for the trainers and drivers when they get the opportunity to perform in front of a crowd like that.
Correct, though.
For guys like Chris Lewis and Colin Brown and Fred Kersley, years gone by, that was a common occurrence. But nowadays, to be able to put your show on in front of thousands of people, there must be just part of them inside that goes home that night buzzing, thinking, gee, that was great tonight to be able to do it in front of, plenty of people and strut your stuff.
Well, you said there's a big crowd at Cannington on Thursday night. Let's go back and replay the Sandgroper.
The Tab Touch Sandgroper final. They're set ready. And Racing Explicit stood still at the start, showing early speed was Deadly Avenger coming across Lakeview Emily. The Perth Cup winner, Deadly Avenger, holds the lead going into the first corner. Lakeview Emily across to second. Good Odds Cobber up on the inside. Explicit recovers to fourth. Then followed by Miss Envy down the back. Tim Zoo well back was Can You All Class. West on Sydney's last of all. The Perth Cup winner, Deadly Avenger, off the back, extends out by 3. Good Odds Copper works to second. Then followed by Lakeview Emily to back and win by 3. Lakeview Emily second. Miss Envy third. Then followed by Good Odds Cobber, behind them Tim Zoo. Explicit well back was West on Sydney. Can You All Class last. Look at the time. New track record. 29.19, the quickest time ever recorded at Cannington.
Unbelievable, 29.19, the fastest ever time, if you do not mind. Joining us this morning, we have Joe Borg, fresh off success there in the Sandgroper final over the 520 metres on Thursday night. Joe, welcome to the aftermath. David Shortte and Marty Young with you this morning. Thanks for taking our call and congratulations. That was a very special win.
Oh, absolutely. And look, we were never really confident of winning the race. It was a star-studded, hand-picked race, and how could you ever be confident of completing the double? It was just an unbelievable performance from a wonderful dog, and we've known all along how good this dog is, and I've had some great caretaker trainers. Steve Withers has done a marvellous job with the dog. He'd been there for almost 2 weeks, the dog, after he won at the Meadows. And Tom Zavalis looked after him in Queensland, and they both know how good the dog is. So it's not just coming from one person; it's 3 people. And look, we're just over the moon that we've won the race and completed the big double.
Indeed, and like you say, credit to the people that are helping you, and you've got 2 of the best in the business there in Steve Withers and the Prince up in Queensland, Tommy Zavalis, but also a lot of credit has to go to the canine himself, Deadly Avenger, of course, a son of Tommy Shelby, which went down very nicely with the local crowd, with Tommy being our pin-up boy here locally for such a long period of time, but there has to be some credit handed out to Deadly Avenger for the fact that he's been able to adjust and adapt to different environment, different conditions, a new track. It's a lot for a dog to take in, but he absolutely loves it out there at Cannington.
He absolutely loves it. Everywhere he goes, he runs time. But look, as you mentioned, Tommy Shelby, Deadly Avenger's mother could only run 400 metres. So Tommy Shelby's put strength into the line and speed. He's got it both ends, the dog. So a lot of credit has to go to the sire as well. As well as the dog.
Another thing about the dog, he doesn't mind box 3.
Oh, he's got a good record from box 3. I was looking at that the other day. It was quite good. His strike rate's quite good.
You would have been delighted with what you saw out of the boxes. That was the key. You set the race up in a race where out of the trials in the build-up to the race, there was less than a length separating 6 of the 8 runners on that run to the first corner there. Splits for Deadly Avenger to be able to get across to the rail and be first there. That was the winning manoeuvre. It was all done in the first 50 metres of the race.
Yeah, look, Steve put him around there and gave him another look at the track a week prior to the event, and he made it a point to me that the dog missed a kick, and I said, well, it's good he's missed it in the trial. He needs to nail it in the race, and he's done so we're quite pleased about that.
Super. And once the dog got to the front, it was lights out for the opposition effectively. He never gave anything else a look in. The time overall, a new track record, just a stunning performance. Now, it's not a surprise to me that the dog broke the track record given the ability level of the dog, but there is part of me that's saying it's a little bit of a surprise because when there's not much separating dogs with splits to the first corner and there's a field as talented as what this field was, often they race each other rather than racing the clock. But once Deadly Avenger got clear, it turned it into a solo trial and showed us just how fast he was.
Yeah, look, I've got a rule. I never, even though he's leading down the back, I never go the early crow. They've never won a race until they're over the line. And that happens for every sport or whatever. They've never won it until they've won it. And look, I was coming for home, I seen him 4 lengths in front. I said, go, boy, go. And I've seen some 37 years involvement in the industry. I've seen some horrendous things happen before the home turn and the finishing line. So I just cheered and yelled and got him to the line, and he's done the job for us.
Hey, Joe, what's next for Deadly Avenger?
We'll be going back to Sandown and the Harrison Dawson.
Excellent. That's a time-honoured series that's just round the corner. Back home, I'm sure the dog will be delighted to get back into the care of your good selves over the next little bit. He's been a star. We love him here in WA. To come across and take out the Perth Cup and Sandgroper double is very, very special, and you deserve to be incredibly proud of what this dog has done. We hope to potentially see him again a little deeper into his racing career. Joe, thank you so much for joining us this morning here on the Aftermath and for bringing this dog across. He's an absolute star. He's got a bright future ahead, I'm sure, at stud as well, being a son of Tommy Shelby, and you guys should all be incredibly proud. And congratulations as well to the team from Ladbrokes, who that's the second year in a row now they've taken out the Sandgroper. Last year with Hector Fawley, a get-back run-on dog, and this year they've done it with a dog leading all the way. They know how to find the right dogs, Joe.
Oh, they do. They know how to pick them. And the party afterwards at the Broken Hill Hotel was awesome.
Magnificent.
Great to hear. One of our great sponsors here at Tab Radio as well. Great to hear, Joe. Fantastic. And we'll welcome you back the next time you head back to Perth.
No worries. Thank you all there, and thank you in WA. It's a wonderful place to visit, and I holiday there quite a few times, and it was just great to get back there and race.
Good man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Borg with us this morning. They're fresh off a track record performance and a Sandgroper winning performance from Deadly Avenger.
Well, here's another good West Aussie boy up in Hong Kong doing his best work, Jay Rooney. A very good morning, JJ.
Morning, Marty. Morning, Shorty. How are we going?
Big day for you. 3 Group 1s. Tell us all about it. Champions Day there at Sha Tin.
Yeah, can't wait for it, guys. It's been a big build-up. We've had plenty of action with this record number of internationals in town. Plenty of action out at the track this morning, during the mornings this week, and it's all systems go for today. We had there's a little bit of a rain about on Friday, but not too much to impact the meeting today. So I was expecting a good day out there for sure.
Love it. 10 races, world-class racing throughout. Let's go through the Group 1s. We'll kick things off there in the Chairman's Sprint over the 1,200 metres, and Ka Ying Rising, this incredible sprinter that the world will be watching this afternoon. 14 starts, 12 wins, 2 seconds, just keeps on fronting up and delivering. It'll be short, but it'll be very hard to beat. Is there a danger to Ka Ying Rising this afternoon there in the Chairman's Sprint?
Well, it does look like he's got this bunch of sprinters covered. He's got most sprinters covered whenever he does front up to the races. The current form he's in, but outside of him, you're probably looking at a horse like Satono Rev from Japan, who ran third to Ka Ying Rising in the sprint back in December at Sha Tin. He was a really good run that day, only beaten 3/4 of a length, and then since then. He's won a Group 1 sprint in Japan and done it really well with Joe Moreira on board. So, if there's any chink in Ka Ying Rising's armour, it's probably him to go close again like he did in December, and then, Helios Express he's almost like the Hay-List of Hong Kong. He just keeps running second to Ka Ying Rising like Hay-List did back to the Black Caviar sort of days. That he's a model of consistency, and he'll run well again despite drawing barrier 13. And outside of them, the field probably thins out a little bit potentially. So, Ka Ying Rising from barrier 4, it looks like he'll be leading, or he'll be sort of box seating wherever Zach wants to sit, right on top of the speed. And I'm sure he'll be making sure it's not a repeat of what happened in December, where he sort of only just scrambled in late. I'm sure he'll be out to dictate and dominate this race.
Got to push these through, Jay. Champions Mile, race 7, Mr. Brightside. Can he win it?
Yeah, he's got to be a great chance. If there was a bit more rain around today, you'd probably like him even more, as he's got such a good wet track record. Having barrier 2 is a big advantage. Voyage Bubble, barrier 10. Where does he get to from the gate? Ricky Yu, the trainer, does feel he can potentially get midfield one off with cover or three wide with cover. So if he does get that sort of run, he's going to be really hard to beat again. I'm in his corner, Voyage Bubble. I just think he's absolutely flying. He's very hard to beat every time he rolls out, almost in a similar vein to Carring Rising. But Mr. Brightside, I think My Wish is a good chance as well from Barrier 1. Obviously a cracking run in the Derby. And then Galaxy Patches, he's a horse with talent to win this sort of race. Hasn't quite put it all together yet, but Zach Purton's on board, a few gear changes, and a bit more speed in this race that might actually suit him. But I'm sticking with Voyage Bubble.
Voyage Bubble there. Jay, we've got a minute to go till the 8 o'clock news. If you could take us through key plays for the day and quickly your thoughts on the other two Group 1s.
Yeah, I thought race 4, number 6, Invincible Shield, my best of the day, going for a hat-trick up here in Hong Kong. Drawn Barrier 1, Craig Williams on board, down in the weights. Is his first time at 1400, but I like the way this horse is going. He's in great form. Race 6, number 9, a Cash Varney. Potentially each way odds. I'm not sure what price will come up. It's a very good race, that one, race 6, but he was brilliant on debut, winning, and then a good second last time out. He's up in class, down in weight. He'll be riding the speed and be pretty hard to run down. The other Group 1, the QE2 Cup, pretty keen on Prognosis, number 2. That's in race 8. I'd have him as my next best play of the day. A very even sort of edition of this race, but his form in Group 1 level and Cox Plate and this race the last 2 years is pretty hard to knock. There's no Romantic Warrior this year, so it might be Prognosis' turn to finally win a well-deserved Group 1.
Hey, Jay, you enjoy yourself up there. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thanks, guys.
There he is, Jay Rooney, scmp.com. You can get his good work, hkjc.com, for all of the information there from the Hong Kong Jockey Club. Well done, David. Thanks for coming in.
Enjoy your Sunday, Marty.